Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, where it's the best place to learn about Canadian finance. Now for this year, due to COVID, a lot of us are staying inside. I've been noticing a lot more people are starting to pay attention to their own finance, which is a great thing. Especially when I work with all my clients, the topic of financial freedom would definitely pop up in the conversation. Now, for a lot of people, this is our ultimate financial destination, but more often than not, I see a lot of people not exactly sure what financial freedom means. So for this week, I want to take the opportunity to talk about what financial freedom is, what are the obstacles, and how we can better situate ourselves to get ourselves to that ultimate financial destinations. So without further ado, let's jump into today's video. So the phrase financial freedom, it's something you hear over and over again, especially once you start working. So what exactly is financial freedom? Now, there are tons of different explanations and terms online, but essentially I broke it into three financial stages we all go through. The first one is what I call financial dependency. Now, in this stage, this is where we all start. Here we have little to no passive income, so what that means is we actually rely on our job. Without our job, next month or the month after, we might not be able to pay our bills. So in this stage, we're financially dependent on our job. Now, through saving and investing, eventually we might reach a stage called financial independence. At this stage, basically, our passive income, either from rentals or investments, will be just equal to our daily expense. So in this sense, we actually don't need our job anymore. We can lose the job tomorrow and we will be okay, we'll be able to pay our expense, but not more than that. Now finally, the last stage is financial freedom. At this stage, your passive income should be more than your expense. With more than enough passive income, you can use the extra to do other things like go on vacations, take on a new hobby, or do whatever you want. So now we know that when someone tells you they want to be financially free or financially independent, what do they exactly mean? Alright, so that sounds easy enough, right? Everyone should just save and invest, and eventually our passive income will be more than our expense and will be financially free. Well, yes and no. See, in theory, this all works out. This is very easy and simple to understand. But in reality, we're faced with two huge obstacles that are keeping us away from financially free. The first problem is what I call the 10-year cycle. Basically, this term describes how long on average it takes for an economy to go through one cycle. Now, no matter which part of the world you are in, eventually your country's economy is going to go through something like this. It's going to start slow and it's going to expand and grow. Eventually, it's going to reach a peak. And an event in the future will trigger a correction. Once a correction is triggered, economy will go back down. And if it's bad enough, it will go into a recession. Once we get to the bottom, things will start to look better again. And we'll go back into a growth mode, eventually hitting another peak. This is a natural cycle and something you cannot escape from. Now, looking at Canada, we're often called the small brother to our neighbor, USA. Canada's economy actually tracks very similar and closely to what US is doing. So if we plot out the economic cycle of US from the last 30 plus years, we can see that within 10 years, the economy is going to go through one cycle and have one big correction, with the most recent being our current COVID-19 situation and the 2008, the Great Financial Crisis. During these times, all businesses and employment will face huge downward pressure. Government will be forced to step in and try to save the economy. And if you have watched my previous videos on government spending deficits, you understand that the two biggest and easiest action to do right away to save the economy is lower interest rate and pump money. Now, both of these will discourage saving, encourage spending, investing, and borrowing. And here is where the first problem lies. Depending on which group or person you are, these measures can be either the best thing to you in the world or your worst nightmare in the long run. See, if you're a business owner or investors, these are great news because a much lower interest rate means a much cheaper cost of borrowing. Indirectly, you're given more resource to spend and invest. Now, this is true, you're still going to face a downward pressure on your businesses and your real estate. But the difference here is you know that real estate are hard assets that will still be here and they will recover eventually. In fact, if your cash flow strong before the downturn, now might be an even better opportunity for you to borrow more and buy out everything while they're on a discount. But if you belong to the other group of people, you don't have this luxury because your job might be affected immediately, and right away your only source of income might be in danger. Now, even though some of government's help could flow to you, for example, the CRB we have right now, you're probably spending all or majority of it trying to stay afloat. And because your job are lost or unstable, you won't be able to borrow more, so you don't benefit much from this low interest rate. Instead, now you're going to suffer the consequence of a low interest rate and printing money, which is inflation. Now, inflation is basically the erosion of your money's buying power as things around you get more and more expensive. If the inflation is 2% a year and you have $100 right now, next year you're still going to have $100, but it can only buy $98 worth of things. Now, if inflation is higher at 4%, in 10 years, if your $100 are not invested and doesn't grow in any way, it's only going to be worth about $66. Now, this is a huge problem because as we know, an average person's salary does not grow very fast year over year. So if inflation is very high, our salary and buying powers indirectly erode very quickly. And every time an economic cycle happens, this pattern repeats itself and it gets more and more extreme. As Ron Paul once quoted, the most sinister of all taxes is the inflation tax, and this is the most regressive. It hits the poor and the middle class. When you destroy a currency by creating money out of thin air to pay the bills, the value of the dollar goes down, and people get hit with a higher cost of living. It is the middle class that's being wiped out. It is most evil of all taxes. And this is exactly what's going on. Over time, our old distribution on what a normal society will look like, where most people are middle class, will now split in middle, and either they become poor or richer. Thus, we created what William Ochi and Kenichi Omai coined M-type society. So here you might say, alright, that makes sense. I see how inflation will work. I'm just going to save up and invest, then I'll be okay, right? Maybe, but that's if you can overcome the second bigger, more invisible, and harder problem. And that's what I call fake ideals. So what I mean by fake ideal is our expectation on what a normal life should look like is very different from the actual reality we go through right now. See, right now, if I ask you, what does a normal good life look like? You might imagine a husband and wife with maybe 2 to 3 kids. Husband is working full-time and wife can be stay-at-home mom. They live in a detached home. They have 2 cars. They go on vacation twice a year. And they have plenty of pensions to retire off of. That might be true 30 or 40 years ago, but it's definitely not true today anymore. Now, as you probably experience right now, most of us actually need 2 income to survive. Many people decide to have kids later, and if they do, at max they probably have 1 or 2. Most of us no longer have pension in our work. And our government retirement benefit is far from enough to sustain our retirement life. Now, Canadian government is working to have our CPP to supply a third of our retirement income instead of a quarter. However, in order to do this, they need to tax us more, which doesn't really solve our problem. Plus, with the rise of social media and technology, we're bombarded with distractions and we're making social comparison every second, which pushes us to spend more. So in the end, there's a huge gap between what our reality is versus our expectations. And in this new M-type society, people on the left side is going to try extremely hard to jump over to the right side. And this is going to create 2 types of people. One are people that are buying into the fake ideals and fake expectations right away. They choose to spend tons of money now to buy the best clothes, latest gadget, just to seem like they're living up to the ideal. And because of inflation, everything gets more expensive every year and the salary is not keeping up. In doing so, most of them is going to end up incurring massive amount of debt that they will never get out of. Or you might have people on the other end of extreme spectrum. These are people who really want to hit that end goal and get over to the other side. And develop an unhealthy mindset of pressuring themselves into working, making money, saving, and not enjoying anything until they feel safe. But for most of them, when you ask them what is that safe number, they cannot tell you. They just want more and more and more. They overly restrict budget on themselves and base their entire emotion solely on the dollar value in their bank accounts. Either of these are healthy, and eventually this never-ending chase will only bring one thing: complete burnout. So looping back to our very first point, what is financial freedom then? Personally, I believe financial freedom is not just about the status of your passive income versus your expense. It's also about the process of getting there and what you're doing every day about it. More like an habit. Not only we want to be financial free, we also want to do it in a way that let us enjoy our current everyday lives and feel good doing it. Because what's the point of sacrificing everything for the first 65 years just so you may retire comfortably? You could be dead 2 days into your retirement. So the question becomes, how do we get a good balance between the two extremes? Now, if we see it more like a habit, we know that drastic actions don't work. So instead of doing drastic changes, I believe we need to adopt the mindset of small but consistent applications and improvements. For example, if you're someone who lives paycheck to paycheck right now and spend all your money every month, instead of cutting all your expense and forcing yourself to save a huge chunk of money, which is unsustainable, you can just start by doing something small today, like putting away $50. Now, if $50 is too much, you can do $25. And if $25 is too much, you can maybe do $5. If even $5 is not possible for this month, then maybe today improve by opening a high interest saving account. Just anything. Anything will be better than doing nothing right now. But here's the key. Once you take one step to slightly improve your current situation, ask yourself how you can take another step to slightly improve it, maybe next week or maybe next month. Now, doing so, you may not feel any changes instantly. But note this. If you change a plane's flying angle slightly going out from Vancouver, instead of going to LA, just by shifting several degrees, it's going to end up in Las Vegas, which is a total different destination from LA. Now, imagine it's not a 3-hour flight, but instead it's your whole life. Today, even if you just made 1 degree change on your financial situation, over your lifetime, you're going to see a drastic effect from where you were supposed to be to where you are. And that's also part of the reason why I call my business the 1 degree planning. Because my outcome is not to force my client to do a 180 change. I know that's not possible. Instead, what I try to get them to do is 1 degree change here and there. Over time, they're going to add up and make a massive difference in their lives. So no matter who you are, today, you can start by applying the tiniest change you can come up with. And the key is to keep a consistent effort and not expect one magical huge change is going to instantly fix every problem in your life. Now, speaking of consistency and changes, we've actually created a private Facebook group, which we have over 2,000 members already right now. So if you have not joined already, I encourage you to join my Facebook group. And if you want, post about your tiny changes on Facebook group. Let all the other members see how you're improving your situation, and you can get more ideas and encouragement from everyone else. Now, I know for the last 11 months, things have not been easy. Everybody is going through a lot of uncertainty, and we're all very worried what's that going to mean for us further down the road, especially financially. And this is why I want to talk about this today and also make all these different topics every week to give people more and more ideas. If you like these kind of videos, I do upload them 8:30 EST every Tuesday. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe to my channel and click the bell button so you get all the notifications in the future. Alright, this is Jacky. Hope you had a great Halloween. I'll see you next week. Bye.